If you've gone through at least some of the Zenless Zone Zero story, I'm sure you noticed that there are a bunch of terms and jargon which might make the story a bit difficult to follow. The myriad of different terminology like hollows, bangboos, carrots and ethereals can make all of it a bit confusing, especially if you are trying to speed through the story. But don't fret. In this video, I'm going to go over most of these terms and explain their significance in the overall story. By the end, hopefully you'll be well informed enough and caught up with the basic lore of the game that the story makes a bit more sense. Before we talk about that though, I'll be covering Zenless Zone Zero lore on this channel alongside Starrail and Wuthering Waves, so if you want to see similar content, do consider subscribing to the channel. While most of the things I'll be covering here is pretty basic stuff that doesn't really spoil anything, towards the end I'll be talking a bit about the main character's unique abilities that might spoil a few early game stuff. So if you want to avoid spoilers at all costs, just be wary of that, otherwise I don't think anything mentioned here will ruin the story too much. Also, if you didn't already know, the point of this video is just to give you a quick run through of some of the basic concepts of lore in Zenless Zone Zero. So don't expect deep dives into each of them, at least for now. Let's start off with the main setting of the story. Zenless Zone Zero takes place in a post-apocalyptic world plagued by supernatural disasters referred to as hollows. No, not those hollows. Most of civilization has been completely destroyed and much of the world is left in ruins with the exception of a singular city, New Eridu. As the name might suggest, the city of New Eridu is built atop or near the metropolis of Eridu, which has now been mostly engulfed by the hollows. While most other cities have essentially been abandoned, New Eridu was able to survive because its inhabitants adapted to their post-apocalyptic environment through the use of technology. The city administrators created a living situation where they survive alongside the hollows almost symbiotically, as the technology they use enabled them to extract resources such as energy and power from the hollows, which they use to run their city. There is currently several districts that fall within New Eridu, such as Lumina Square and 6th Street, to name a few, which are surprisingly quite populated. In fact, in such locations, you can hardly even tell that there's an apocalypse going on in the background. It's unclear, however, if there are any lingering survivors outside this singular city, with the only one reference in the story so far is the location referred to as the Outer Ring, though we don't really know anything beyond its name. Now, as you might have guessed, most of what is happening in the world of Zenless Zone Zero revolves around the hollows. The hollows are considered an apocalyptic level disaster and can appear seemingly in random locations and practically out of thin air. They appear as spherical and opaque domes of varying sizes, some of which can grow to the size of an entire city, while others just taking up the space of a moderately sized house. Most hollows can change in size, expanding or contracting depending on what is happening in them, and implies that they can be manipulated and brought under control somewhat, though this is slightly easier said than done. Within these hollows, time and space function differently and are completely distorted, with the flow of time being different within each hollow. There are also phenomena referred to as hollow fissures, which are essentially wormholes that connect random areas within the hollow, making navigating them difficult, as a single misstep might cause you to end up on the other side of the hollow entirely. If that didn't deter you from entering these nightmarish domes, the hollows are also the home to otherworldly creatures referred to as Ethereals. We don't yet fully understand why these creatures appear or what their true purpose is, but the Ethereals are extremely hostile and will attack anything on sight. There are several classifications of Ethereals ranging from rather benign ones to extremely dangerous ones that should be avoided at all costs, but I'll cover this in a bit more detail in a separate video. On top of that, there is an unknown substance that is present within all hollows that can corrupt and mutate any individual who spends too much time there and does not have the necessary resistances. Those that are affected by this substance gradually lose their minds and eventually even mutate physically, becoming monsters that endlessly roam the hollows. Even machinery are not immune to the effects of this corruption, and prolonged exposure to the environment within a hollow can result in equipment malfunctioning or even going berserk. Now, despite this nightmarish hellscape I just described, there are those that would venture into the hollows for one reason or another. For those associated with city administration like law enforcement or specialist teams that deal with hollows, they often carry out operations within hollows to either reduce the size of a hollow through taking out key targets or to root out criminal activities. They also carry out activities like mining, holo mapping, and ether collection, all of which are important to the functioning and survival of New Eridu. While the holos are indeed dangerous places, because they are difficult to navigate, they are also often used by criminal groups, bandits, and even smugglers to carry out their clandestine and illegal activities. Aside from that, there are also those who seek fame and fortune like holo raiders, scavengers, treasure hunters, and ether miners. The areas engulfed by the holos often cover large portions of old abandoned cities and can often hide valuables and resources that were left behind when the holo took root. A specific type of mineral also forms within holos, which can be mined and sold for a neat profit. Holo raiders also often take on commissions by private clients to enter the holos, perhaps to retrieve something of importance or even to carry out rescue operations. Despite all these dangers, the promise of money can always convince even the most careful of people to reconsider the risk and take a step into the holos. Given everything I've explained though, how can these people even survive in a holo? The time variance can create a lot of confusion, there are portals everywhere, and monsters, bandits, and who knows what else litter every corner of this supernatural dome. How can someone who enters the holo ever hope to make it out? Well, this is where the proxies, bangboos, and carrots come into play. Proxies, which is a term I'm sure you've heard a lot of given the main character is one, are individuals who help guide people through a holo. They do this through the use of bangboos, spatial analysis, and what's called a carrot. I'm probably going to have a whole video on bangboos as they're pretty darn interesting, but generally, bangboos are intelligent robots that were once used in the evacuation of residents from holo-affected areas. Due to research and technological advancement, the bangboos are now almost fully autonomous and even partially sentient. They can be given instructions and even complex tasks with little to no issue, though they do have their flaws. These robots are what proxies use to guide anyone who wishes to travel into a holo, but in general, bangboos can actually do quite a lot more than that. But if the time dilation and spatial changes within a holo causes it to constantly change, wouldn't it be extremely difficult to navigate them even with bangboos? Well, that's where the carrots come into play. You can think of carrots as maps that help the proxies circumnavigate the holo, and each holo has a specific map associated to it. These maps are constantly updated using information collected from the holos themselves to ensure that navigation is safe, but there is still an inherent risk associated with traveling within holos given carrots aren't always updated in real time. Carrots are often developed from data collected from holo observation equipment or those shared by the holo investigation agency, but requires constant calibration due to the corrupting and ever-changing nature of the holo. This is why if you spend too much time in a holo, even if you went in with an up-to-date carrot, it will eventually be of no use. That's if you even survive that long. So essentially, the proxies are sort of like operators from the matrix that help guide people through holos, and they do so through their Bangboo intermediaries that make use of maps referred to as carrots. This is why you often see a group of holo raiders or public officials always accompanied by a Bangboo or proxy, as without them, navigating through the holo is near impossible. Now, at this point, you roughly know most of how the world of Zenless Zone Zero works. I've gone over the overall setting, holos, ethereals, proxies, bangboos, and carrots, but I want to talk a bit more about the main characters, Phaethon, as they are rather unique when it comes to being proxies. This is the part that has some minor spoilers, by the way, so you have been warned. You see, what makes the main character different from the other proxies is that, for one, they can directly link to the Bangboo they use for navigation, controlling them in real time. Because of this link, it's as if the proxy are in the holo themselves and can react directly to any changes the holo experiences, as well as to respond to it in real time. In addition, because they are directly linked to their Bangboo, it also means that they can communicate with the people they are guiding, making operations far smoother even with the difference in time flow. A typical proxy would only rely on prompts sent directly to their Bangboo, and if there were any interference or delay, then the people they were guiding are functionally screwed. During the events of the story, Phaethon also gains another tool that allows them to carry out their work far more efficiently: Ferry. Now, for all intents and purposes, Ferry describes herself as a Type 3 general purpose AI equipped with total sequential integration, which in Razor talk makes her an extremely capable AI. I don't think I need to tell you how powerful an AI on your site is, especially for the line of work the main character is in. Ferry can calculate alternate routes, collect and analyze large volumes of data, mine the internet for information, and compute complex tasks and calculations in mere moments. On top of that, because of Ferry's immense computing ability, they are able to act as a Rosetta data, meaning the main character's carrot can be updated in real time and requires little to no calibrations. That is to say, with Ferry on their side, the main character can enter and exit hollows freely and with little to no limitations. In addition, because Phaethon is in truth two people, one sibling can act as the pilot, while the other can help coordinate stuff behind the scenes. And when you add an AI into the mix, this fast becomes a deadly efficient combo. This is what makes Wise and Bell extremely adept at being proxies, and why no others can provide the level of service and safety that they can. Now, that's basically most of the major terms you need to know about when it comes to Zenless Zone Zero, but admittedly, there are quite a few other stuff I haven't included here, like the types of Ethereals, the factions, and even some of the story plot points. Rest assured, however, I will be working on those videos and releasing them as soon as I can. I'm also working on a full story recap for 1.0 for you story skippers, but it'll take a while before I can compile everything. Zenless Zone Zero does start off rather slow, but I do see some potential in the story, and this first part is really just about world building. While each character initially appeared kinda meh for me, they have mostly grown on me as I went through the story, and I hope to see more of them in the future. In any case, I'll bring the video to a close here. If I missed any crucial information or if you want me to cover a specific topic, do let me know in the comments. If you found the video entertaining or even helpful, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.